Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday service of Now Creations. I hope you especially enjoyed our newspaper ad this morning. We have to continue to remind each other that we really are the love of God in human form. Still the most important thing, and until we realize that, we'll always be looking for something else. And it's so important to realize what you really need is what you already have. The love of God coming forth to expression from within you. Just a couple of other comments. We'll have our normal classes on the 4th of July, in the morning, Ultimate Journey, and in the evening, A Course in Mastering Alchemy. And also, this Sunday night, tonight, I hope you'll enjoy, if you're able to join us, our What is Light Body from 7 to 8:30. Let's begin. My dear friends, as we prepare to celebrate the 4th of July, our Independence Day here in America, we realize that we are so fortunate to live in a free country. And yet it seems like so many people are just not very happy. Although they are externally free, many people are struggling with a sense of a loss of internal freedom. Much of their day is given to being worried about a particular problem, and especially worried and fearful of the future. While such concerns are prevalent in our society, there is another way of looking at things that we on our spiritual path have been able to know, to appreciate, and especially to live. It is precisely this spiritual path that I will present in today's teaching. I will begin with an event that occurred during one of our weekend enrichment experiences. Then I will expand this idea with several practical supportive reasons, and finally conclude with some elevations concerning our spiritual growth. Today's teaching is entitled The Presence Within. And let me make just one other introductory comment. Today's teaching will not necessarily be flashy. It's more of a nuts and bolts presentation, and will provide a very solid foundation for presently in our lives, as well as providing a basis for our future spiritual growth. Again, remember, nuts and bolts. Let's proceed. What I'm going to say now cannot be scripted. It either happens or it does not. It just pops up or it doesn't. This is what happened. At one of our weekend enrichment meetings, there were 10 of us who were participating. The discussion was very vibrant as usual. And then, all 10 of us seemed to pause for a moment. And in that moment, and again, this cannot be scripted. It either happens or it doesn't. But in that moment, all of us felt that we were a participation in one large energy. There was this energy that seemed to envelop all of us. And in that moment, there was a clear experience that there was just one energy moving through each one of us. While we might have given this one energy different names, the experience was quite clear. It was a clear experience of one unifying energy moving through each one of us. It was quite exhilarating, as well as yet also calm and very peaceful. Again, While each one of us might give a different name to that energy, let's simply call it the one presence. The one presence. It was clear to each one of us that each of our presences was participating in the one presence. Now this becomes important. This one presence did not just come and go for just a few seconds. Rather, our members seem to experience this one presence for the remainder of the session. Please listen carefully. It was clear that our members had worked on their own individual growth. And now we were coming to understand how our individual growth is a participation in the larger growth of the one presence. This is so important for us to grasp how our individual work has now helped each one of us to understand that we are participants in a larger universal presence. At that moment, we were bigger than ourselves, much bigger than that personality self, but also even bigger than our soul selves. We, as individuals, were raised into the unifying energy of the one presence. I know that many of you have had such experiences. This is now what I want to focus in on in 4 practical ways of how we participate in the one presence. Now, please remember, this is a nuts and bolts teaching, although I must say that a few things will become a little flashier as we proceed. The first practical consideration of participating in the one presence is as simply as I can state it. You are becoming a Christ. As simply as I can state it, you are becoming a Christ, a Christed presence of the one presence. Jim Self has been especially helpful in his wonderful book, A Course in Mastering Alchemy, in reminding us that he defines the Christ as a soul that is consciously connected to our source, the God Spirit. That a Christ is a soul that is consciously connected to our God Spirit. Would you not say that that's exactly how you're experiencing yourself right now? Consciously connected to God's Spirit? Isn't this what the disciples noticed about Jesus? That he was consciously connected to his source, the God Spirit. And just as the great spiritual teachers have encouraged us, just so we must encourage each other to step up, and to be the one presence, the true identity of ourselves as the Christ consciousness of being the love of God in human form. It is this lack of a true identity that causes so many people to be struggling with themselves. Even though they live in a free country, they're not free inside. Just like those of us who've experienced the oneness in that weekend enrichment session, now all of us are stepping up to the Christ consciousness, which means that we feel our oneness with the God Spirit, and we live accordingly. Remember, this is the nuts and bolts teaching, and this is the first and primary foundational step to be a Christ presence of the one presence, to be the love of God in human form. Step 2 has 2 parts to it: a clearer, easier teaching to grasp, and then one of those flashier sayings. First, the clearer, easier teaching. When Jesus was described in the Gospels, he was described as someone who went about doing good. Would you not say that that description of Jesus is now descriptive of you? That you too are one who goes about doing good. Wherever you can, you see opportunities of doing good. In fact, you now look for opportunities for doing good. 2 things have become very important. The first one is that you've overcome your ego. You've overcome your ego. You no longer have to have the spotlight on you. Please do not underestimate this quality of yours. Becoming selfless is a reflection of your spiritual growth. Please consider that. Becoming not self-centered is a reflection of your spiritual growth. You no longer need external stuff to become content because you no longer need external stuff to become content because you have filled yourself with the contentment of the God Spirit. You have become whole from within. Would you not say so? You become whole from within. This is quite an achievement on your part, which leads to the second inner quality of your goodness. Because you have become selfless, and because you have an internal commitment to the Holy Spirit. Let me just say this again. Because you have been selfless now, and because you have an internal commitment to the Holy Spirit, your joy in life, your joy in life has become to share this goodness with others. This is quite a testimony to your growth. In the past, you would have called this a willingness to be of service to others. But it's more than that for us. This notion of selfless service, because of internal contentment, has been raised into the quality of joy. It's your joy to share your goodness. It's joyful to go about doing good because we have first experienced that inner contentment of the Holy Spirit within us, which enables us then to come into some flashier expressions of what we're doing. The first flashier expression has many, many, many phases to it. I would just mention 2 of them that I think are extremely interesting. The first one comes from A Course in Miracles, which is absolutely relentless. It is relentless in acknowledging the fact of our oneness with our fellow human beings. The Course says, There's just three things you need to know. You need to know the God Spirit within you. You need to know that you've never left that God Spirit, and that's the one presence that's with you every day. And the third thing, everyone else is a member of the family of God. We all have the same unifying one presence. We cannot proceed in goodness until we recognize the oneness that we have with all others, despite their behavior. It is tough at times. This was precisely what Jesus taught us, as the Course in Miracles presents in the meaning of his crucifixion. And that is that no one is outside of the family of God, even those who may be crucifying you. This is an enormous point for us to ponder. That second teaching on oneness comes from the work of Teilhard de Chardin, wherein he states that we are the harbingers of the expression of oneness. He acknowledges that not everyone is in the energy of oneness at this time, but we are. But we are. We are harbingers of oneness. We are the bringers of the dawn of oneness. His words were expressed most recently, by Eckhart Tolle in that wonderful book, The New Earth, wherein he says there is a new species arising on the planet. That new species is arising now, and we are it. We are. We are a new species, having finished the game of separation and moving now into oneness. Oneness with our God Spirit and oneness with the God Spirit within others. These are not just nice words for you. You know that something has changed within you. You are different now. You are not the same old, same old. There has been a spiritual growth in you that is not only irreversible, but it is also expanding. This growth, now shared with others, in mind and spirit, is the one presence. The one presence that the 10 of us experienced a couple of weeks ago. And the one presence that we are now experiencing even more today. Which now brings me to the third point of the one presence. Okay, sit down, take a deep breath. Here we go. The third point is quite simple to express in words. It has taken quite a change to become an expression of feeling. The simple statement, the simple words of the one presence are these: how you see yourself is now how you see others. How you see yourself is now how you see others. Easy to say. While the statement of these words were a constant reminder of how we would like to see others, the feeling of seeing others in this way had two obstacles. See if they're not true. The first obstacle was seeing yourself in this way, of seeing yourself in the God Spirit. How many times did you start and then stop? How many times when you said, oh yes, now I have it, the drama came up? Phew. He went back down the chute. How many times did you want to give up? That the spiritual path was just not for you in this lifetime. But you didn't stop. And you did show up. You were destined. You were destined to fulfill, as Roy Eugene Davis reminded us, to seek enlightenment in this lifetime. You persevered and you overcame that obstacle. Now to the point of understanding that you do realize you are the one presence in this lifetime for yourself. Bravo. You have become enlightened in your present lifetime. Hallelujah. Yet, there was a second obstacle, namely to see others, most of whom who were in lower energy, in the same way that you saw yourself. Again, these words were very easy to say, but moving into the feelings of oneness was quite a different story. You had to accept past and present hurts from people who were still among you and still aiming some of those hurts at you. You had to understand that it is hurting people that do hurtful things, even when they said embarrassing, critical things about you. You had to learn not to take things personally and not to give things personally. You know, those snide remarks, that juicy piece of gossip, rolling your eyes, that scowl on your face. We have all had to learn this lesson of being understanding when we didn't feel like being understanding, when we wanted to be critical. And if that wasn't enough, not only were we guided to be understanding of others, but also to be respectful of their experience. And then also, oh my gosh, even to love them and not to break our energetic unity with them. Whew. This was quite a growth for us. One that many of us are still making. Now really listen closely. That in this process of accepting, understanding, respecting, and loving yourself and others, in this process, something changed within you. Within us. We became more settled. Life became easier. And then the greater light dawned. See if this is not true. When you begin to experience the one presence with yourself and with all others, you began to let go of all of the other obstacles in your life, both for yourself and with others. Let me repeat that. When you began to experience the one presence with yourself and with all others, you also began to let go of the obstacles that you were dealing with within yourself and with others. You begin to let go of worry about health. You begin to let go of worry about money. You began to let go of worrying about your children and grandchildren. And dare I say, you began to realize a divine order to all of life because you had released the two biggest obstacles: your own self-centeredness and your resistance to others. That's a bravo. That's an hallelujah. You stopped worrying. You stopped being fearful. You have become free because you have removed those two big obstacles. And now you're finally learning to be content, not just content within yourself, but content with all others. And especially being content from within yourself. Because it's the contentment within yourself that has enabled you to understand, to feel, and to be an expression of the one presence. You have returned to your place of origin, to God's Spirit within you. You have returned to your place of origin, one presence. A brief fourth practical comment is helpful. Just as the 10 members of Now Creations experience this sense of oneness with each other, I think we have all come to experience this sense of presence with others. This is why it's so very important to gather with others in similar energy as we're doing here this morning. We need each other. We so appreciate each other, especially other members of Now Creations, but members of other groups to which we belong. It's a wonderful, wonderful experience to share spiritual community with others, to have spiritual friends. Never doubt the importance of being one in spirit with others. We facilitate for each other the notion of being harbingers of the new earth, the bringers of a new dawn of consciousness. In conclusion, there is more to be said about the one presence, which I will address in next week's teaching. But for now, just enjoy that lovely presence of God at the very center of your being. You are the Christ. You go about doing good for yourself and for others. And please realize that it is this truth of the one presence that has set us free, free from obstacles and free for life together. Let me now bring you into meditation, and what a joy it is to do so. The one presence. Jesus called it the pearl of great price, the one presence. and you have come to experience it in this lifetime. One presence. It's what you've always wanted. It's what you've worked for. And now you can honestly say, this is who I am. This is my identity. I am Christ. I am conscious of my connection to the one presence. And this is the way I live. You've overcome self-centeredness. The spotlight just doesn't have to be on you. You have become content from within the one presence. It's the one presence, your place of origin. You've always been a child of God. You've known that forever, but now you're stepping into it much more fully. Would you please accept the fact that you have become a Christ? Now let's be clear. Becoming a Christ is not a doom and gloom identity. This is the identity we've been waiting for, wanting. This is that identity that gives us confidence and joy within ourselves. We become a Christed consciousness in the material world. But the one major difference of being the Christ in the material world is what we mentioned in our newspaper ad this morning. You no longer get imprisoned in the world. You have remained free. You are free to express the love of God in your human form. You no longer get lost, caught. Would you please notice what you're feeling right at this moment? Are you not feeling an exhilaration right at this moment within you? Just those words, you're no longer caught, no longer imprisoned, you're free. Does not that energy start coming up within you and says, yes, yes, that's exactly it. I am free to do good, and I do. There are just moments in which you know And this is one of those moments. You know, you are the Christed presence of the one presence. You are the Christed presence of the one presence. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. When you hear names like Jesus or Teilhard de Chardin or Eckhart Tolle, you just think, oh my goodness, what wonderful lights they are. And indeed they are. And now there's you sitting at the same table with them. Sitting at the same table, sharing the same presence. Enjoying a happy conversation of being the light. There is one presence, one presence. And we are all participants in it. Okay, we got a day to live today, so let's return back to our breath with a little more bounce in our step, nice smile on our face, one in our hearts. We have good to do today. All day long, all day long. We are the one presence in moments of quiet and in moments of expression. Allow this energy to exhilarate you today. And just now gently open your eyes, feeling that presence within you. Nice smile on your face. Why not? We're the one presence. I am an eternal being of light and love. Thus, only good can come to me, and only good can come from me. And we are eternal beings of light and love, Thus, only good can come to us, and only good can come from us. Namaste.